Hello, dear marathon participants. Today we start the third week of our live trading of our marathon, and we are expert team of Larsen & Hoyles company. I'm Alice.
I'm Tony.
And we are happy to see you here, and we are continuing to unveil secrets of the markets. So, Tony. Tony, let's start with discussing the results of the last week.
Okay.
How much did you manage to earn? What's your profit of the last week?
Okay. So hello everyone. Excited to be here. So yeah, let's just have a look. So basically, as you guys remember last week, we had our, let's say, predictions, not really forecasts, in regards to gold, Bitcoin, and instead of euro dollar, we actually decided to go ahead with the British pound, especially after all of the talks that was happening in regards to the Brexit situation, and the whole discussion was basically finished by the beginning of last week. So not finished, but it was sort of paused. We didn't have any news last week, so that's why it was a little bit more technical and less, shall we say, political. So in terms of what we actually see, to sum it up, we managed to make about 14.5% from. Yeah, that's actually quite a bit. Yeah, it's not as much as we had a week before that, which was about 30, as you remember. But still, it's pretty good. Of course, we're talking about 14% from the initial deposit, not from the from where we started off with last week. So for those of you who actually followed our recommendations, shall I say? You guys would know that we obviously had, quite a good deal on gold. So that's obviously closed with take profit. Also, what else did we have? That was the British pound. Again, take profit. That obviously fixed the price. And the same thing with Bitcoin. And something that I know surprises a lot of you every now and then when you guys hear it. Every time I mention Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, what are those assets which I believe fundamentally should be higher than that in price. Every time we see a dip in the price, that's a good point to actually buy it. So do not be upset if you say Bitcoin or Ethereum or some shares of like a certain company, if they actually go down, that's a good point to actually get into a long position, right?
Yeah, concerning Bitcoin, Tony, everybody knows already. I think that yesterday's decision on ETF was postponed to 29th of December and postponed again. So what next movements of Bitcoin do you expect in Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market as a whole?
Okay, so that's a good question. So for those of you guys who follow cryptocurrency closely, and it's one of those markets where you have to follow the news quite a bit, especially that most of the governments, most of the countries, they're talking about some sort of legalization of cryptocurrency, starting with Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., etc. So speaking of the whole SEC and the ETF situation, so for those of you who don't basically know what it's all about, you guys can read it in more detail anywhere online. Just Google it. But in short, basically, there are discussions now with the largest exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange and the Chicago the goods exchange. They're basically trying to make assets in terms of Bitcoin in terms of the ETF. So the situation there is basically, the SEC, basically with the committee that values, this sort of derivatives, actually it's not really going to be a derivative. If it's an ETF, it's actually going to be an asset itself, which is actually classified as a security. But anyway, so the idea is that it's really hard for them to sort of value it in terms of liquidity and in terms of the actual price, etc., etc. Additionally, it's really hard for anyone to, track and back it up for the investors. So yeah, I mean that's basically one of the reasons why it was postponed. But again, you guys, it's a deep topic, so you guys can just go online and read it in a lot more detail. That's basically the story in short. Now, how does it affect the Bitcoin itself and the cryptocurrency world? We need to understand that any sort of delays in they don't bring a certainty to the investors. So that's only on the one hand. So I'm sure you would agree that
I agree, and that
for anyone who's waiting for it, when it's
makes the price volatile.
Yeah, it makes the price volatile, as well as I mean, if we look at the Bitcoin, we didn't. I mean, arguably, we saw this drop in price, but again, we can't really say that it was massive. That it just destroyed the market of Bitcoin price. It was a bit of a dip. I agree with that, but at the same time, you guys need to understand that was a good point to buy it. For any one of you who was not just taking a day off on the weekend and who was following Bitcoin, that was a good point to buy it. Now, one of the things we need to understand as well, the whole situation with the ETF, with Bitcoin being postponed, doesn't mean that it's bad, because it's still in the talks. They're still discussing it. So again, the perspective for Bitcoin, I believe they're still really good. So it's something that I would still say Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency market, it's still to boom in the future. So in that sense, what I would say is we can actually go along. Would you agree?
Go along, yes, because till 29th of December we have expectations on the market.
Exactly.
So we can earn on expectations.
Exactly. So and same thing. If we refer back to the technical analysis a little bit. So one of the things we guys can see, on the 4-hour chart. Obviously, for some of you who like to draw all sorts of things like that, we do actually see sort of an upward movement in Bitcoin lately. And again, if we look at the support and resistance lines on the daily chart, especially, I mean, this is what we see. Again, something that I mention every single time. I don't mind any sort of comment saying your support or your resistance should be higher or lower. But just for anyone who's just getting into it, for anyone new to trading, anyone new to sort of drawing resistance and support lines, something I would like to point out, guys, do not be alarmed again if your level is not quite there. Okay, there is an old saying, like I mentioned last week, I'm pretty sure, if you get 10 traders in the room, you'll get at least 11 opinions on where the level should be. Okay, so anyway, so basically what we do see is the market is still a little bit flat, but at the same time, for anyone who's following what is known as price action, we guys can see that has successfully sort of stayed at around this level. So it's more of an upward section of it. So it hasn't fully gone down here or here. So what that basically means is there is enough pressure from, buyers, from those who have like a long position in Bitcoin. So obviously we're most likely to see the upward movement, fairly soon, especially if we do get any news, any comments on the whole ETF situation. So that's going to be an upward movement. So what we're going to do, like I mentioned, okay, let's do say 0.3 for example. We did 0.1 last week, so we're going to long it. And again, what we're gonna do, let's place our take profit. So something that I mentioned last week, guys, and that's actually one of the reasons why all of the orders actually close with a profit, because we'll see a little bit later, but basically what happened, every single one of them could have been negative. So every single trade that we opened last week with you guys together could have been a negative, could have been a loss for us, unless we actually fixed it. So I mean fixed in the sense of using take profit. So obviously, as you guys can remember, I didn't really place stop losses on any one of them because I was going to monitor it. But as you guys can see, the take profit that we placed, that was exactly where all these 3 transactions closed. So that was basically my take profit. So again, speaking about the technicalities of it, use it. Take profit and stop loss, they're friends. They're not your enemies.
Exactly.
Yeah, something we recommend every single time. So yeah, basically on the technical side, as well as the fundamental analysis. Again, we're gonna long Bitcoin, and what you guys can see here, I actually placed take profit just before this resistance level. And the idea behind it is obviously we don't know if it's actually going to break through it. If it does, that's great. We can add additional positions after it actually breaks through the level. However, if it doesn't, I don't want to be in the position where I'm sort of guessing. If the level is actually here or here or here. So what I do is actually place my take profit just a little shy of the resistance level. Same thing. If I was shorting it, I would actually place it a little higher than the support level.
Yeah, that's important. Just pay attention to Tony's words. That's important.
Yeah, that's just a good practice for you guys. Cool. Yeah, that's. I mean, in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of crypto, I'm confident we need to long it.
Oh, excellent. And Tony, currency markets, fiat currency markets are obviously still under stress nowadays. And what do you think? Which decisions to be taken are the best in this situation now? I mean, the euro, dollar, pound, and all that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so in terms of the cryptocurrency, there are not that many news. In terms of the fiat currency, however, political things, they do affect it quite a bit. So something that we mentioned, guys, last week, in terms of the economic calendar, something you guys, hopefully follow from now on, or actually from last week. And again, if you guys haven't seen us last week, so that's actually the exact link. Or basically, what you guys can do is go on LH Crypto and you can find the exact link to see the economic calendar. So the idea here this week, we actually do have quite a bit of news. Some of them are obviously more important, some of them are less important. So speaking of that, basically what we want to look out for. This week we do have quite a bit of news. So what are the important ones? So we do have the ISM manufacturing PMI for America today. So that's something that you guys can look out for. We also we had some news in Germany, but that's a bit that's a bit narrow for for Germany. To affect you like Eurozone altogether, and euro as a currency. But anyway, so tomorrow one of the exciting things we do have, one of the most important news that you guys get on the currency, on any currency, that's the interest rate decision. So tomorrow we do have the RBA, so that's the National Bank of Australia. Basically, the committee there is deciding on what the interest rate is going to be. So obviously, so far it's supposed to be at 1.5%. So we'll see if they're going to raise it or if they're going to leave it the same. But that's going to be quite early. So that's going to be 7:30 or Moscow time, or wherever you guys are. So adjust your watches. But yeah, that's obviously one of the things that we can look out for. And again, something that you guys should be doing from now on. Just go ahead and have a look for all of those important news that you guys get. So obviously one of the more exciting ones, shall I say, we do have what was it? There we go. So one of the important things, we do have non-farm payrolls this Friday. That's for the US. It's again for the more experienced traders. You guys would know it's actually one of the biggest. It's one of the hugest news that you guys get, which actually affects the US dollar. And yes, that's something basically to get into real trading. Let's put it this way. So basically what we had last week, we followed British pound, as you guys can remember. So let's actually have a look on the on the graph here. So guys, basically what we had last week was quite a big of a drop. I think we've seen the beginning of it last week with you guys, but basically, so what happened? It basically carried out throughout the whole week. Again, this is to do with the really strong statistics on the US, and that's something that I mentioned last Monday, that we do expect really strong stats to come out throughout the week, and that's exactly what happened. So this is, that obviously was the case. Again, something that we saw here, for those of you who actually missed it, that's actually, there was one of the news concerning, the Fed decision and the FOMC meeting last week. So again, by the end of the meeting and, by the end of the, the Q&A that they had, basically the US economy is really, really strong right now. So that's exactly what we see here. And for any one of you who's, basically looking at, at the technical analysis, it's really, really technical right now. So it's something you guys, can look out for. So basically what we do see is, give me a second, is a pretty good level here. So that's exactly what we saw, as you guys can, witness it. But again, what we do see, because basically, as you guys remember, last week we were talking about, the whole Brexit situation. The idea is it will happen at some point. They would actually agree on how, the UK would actually exit the EU. So by that point, we should see, the strengthening of the British pound. But again, what we guys do see here, no, my bad, is a really easy to follow channel. And again, guys, one of the things, same as I always mention, if it's a little bit off for you, that's not a big problem, as long as you get, the general picture. But the idea is, even though we were going long last week, actually dropped quite a bit in price. But again, what we do see here right now, and again, if you guys have to adjust it, just adjust it a little bit. That's not a big deal. But basically, what we do see is, a really strong upward trend on the daily chart. Yeah, you agree?
And we had support level now.
Yeah, so and again, on the 4-hour chart, that's actually what we touched, just a couple of hours ago. That's pretty good support line. So again, what we do expect is for the British pound, to sort of bounce back up, from last week. Again, it does depend on the fundamentals. So again, check the economic calendar. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go for a long position in the British pound as well. There we go. And I'm going to take profit. We do actually, well, let's put it this way. I would expect quite a big movement in the British pound this week. But not to get too greedy, let's place it around here. which is still quite a bit. And again, we could probably, as you guys can see, this sort of little movement, we can probably go for short position, which would be actually quite short term as well. However, I'm not going to do it just because for most of you guys, by the time you actually see it will be a bit too late. So we're just not going to bother with it. But we do expect something like that to happen. And again, if it does not happen, if we actually see the breakthrough, this trend line or the channel line, that's exactly when we'll have to sort of flip over and go short. Either have, say, 2 lots on selling, or maybe like a little more. It does depend on your the size of your deposit. Or likewise, we can just close this one and just add additional short positions. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the fiat currency, guys, there's a whole variety of things you can do there. The Australian dollar, the US dollar, against all the majors like euro or pounds, anything. Let me just quickly show it to you guys here. Again, on the technical side, speaking of the euro dollar. So actually, what we do see, we have a level here, and we're actually quite close to the bottom level right now. So obviously, what that means, if we actually do hit this level, that will be a good position to go long for any of you guys, who's following technical trading. A little more. And same thing here, that was wrong. Okay, that will do. So what we also do have is this level here, which if we do follow back on the history, actually, you guys can see it resembling here, and a little back in the history as well, and here. And it's sort of nicely done here, etc., etc. So we actually do have quite a few points back in the history where it touches this level and bounces off. So on the other account that I do trade, that was actually the long position that I had here, and my short position, which actually carried through Friday to today. From about here, it actually closed around this level. But anyway, so yeah, that's in terms of the British pound. We're just going long. In terms of the euro dollar, we can still go long, and there is actually another level around this area, but not to go with too many deals. I'm just gonna leave euro dollar out of the picture right now. Anyway, yeah, so that's in terms of the fiat market. There are quite a few things to do. So,
okay, thank you, Tony. And tell us about your golden portfolio. I mean,
Right.
do you add some other metals to your portfolio, maybe some other commodities except gold?
Sure. So, yeah, in terms of the commodities market, same thing here. In terms of the LH crypto, you guys get like a whole variety, of goods you can go with. So it's not only gold, that's often traded. You guys get all sorts of like cocoa beans and coffee, etc., etc. You get platinum, you get silver, etc., etc. So you do get quite a lot. Also, because it's LH crypto, we deal with crypto every single day. You get the same things in terms of say gold versus Ethereum, silver versus Ripple, etc., etc. So whatever you guys like. But personally speaking, I do trade some other commodities occasionally. So I do trade coffee every now and then. I go along, with oil sometimes, and again, something really good. In terms of oil, it's one of those things that you guys can trade based on the news as well. So economic calendar, it's not only for it's not only for the what's it called, for the fiat currencies. There are also quite a few things to do with the commodities market. So that's something again to look out for. But again, oil is one of those things that you guys have to actually read the news every now and then to see what the meeting was about, what the decision was, because there are not as many numeric news on gold on oil. Well, actually on gold as well. But yeah, I mean, in terms of gold, as you guys can remember, we actually had a long position last week, which actually made us quite a bit of profit. It's about, I believe, about 6%, I think. Was it? Anyway, it was some percentage of the deposit. It was it was quite a good deal. So what we actually see right now in terms of gold. We obviously have, if we look at the daily chart, that's one of the top levels that we have. That's one of the resistance levels that we do have. So again, same thing as I always say, and obviously, if you guys use some indicators, some oscillators or trend indicators, like moving average, etc., you guys would see probably the about same picture. But because everyone uses sort of different things, I'm not going to go into it. But in terms of the actual technical analysis, looking at the daily chart, what we guys see is we're hitting this bottom level. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one.
Yeah, so we're actually quite close to this bottom level. So again, we're most likely to bounce off it and go back up. So one of the things that we can do, obviously, we guys can go for a long position just now, and that's something I will actually do. One of the reasons, again, we can wait for it to reach the bottom. Well, one of the things we need to understand, we can see a pretty strong consolidation here, again, because of this level. So that's one of the reasons we might not actually see the market reaching the support line again. We might actually bounce off from this level. So what we actually will do, again, not to get too greedy, we can probably place it all the way up here, for in terms of the week, that's absolutely fine. But what we're actually gonna do, we'll have one take profit around this level, which is it's still quite a bit. And what we'll actually do is we'll place a pending order. So something I'm not sure if we've actually done together, but what we'll actually do, we'll place a pending order at around this level. So that's 1183.05. So for anyone who's sort of new to it, I don't know why 05. I just chose it. Why not? And let's have our take profit similar one. So for anyone who's sort of new to it, for you guys to understand what that basically is, a pending order basically opens when the market hits a certain price. So it doesn't cost us anything in that sense, as you guys can see. It's actually, that's our pending order. It's a buy limit. That's obviously gonna open a long position, so that's gonna automatically buy one lot of gold when the market actually reaches this level. And I place take profit, it's around the same level. I actually chose exactly 100 pips. So for any one of you, who actually watches the market, by the time actually reaches this level, you guys can obviously just open a long position yourself. But because we're not going to monitor it that closely, because we do actually have quite a bit of a profit right now. I'm not saying you guys you should open a transaction, just leave it. I'm not saying that. But what we actually can do is we can place a pending order for an automated transaction. Which might happen in the future if the market reaches this price. If not, we're good because we already have a long position here.
Yeah, true. Tony, if we look at your trades, we can see that almost all of them are profitable. More profit or less profit, but they are still all profitable. And is there any basic strategy for that? Which one you can recommend to the beginners, so that the the trader will look at the chart and decide what I will do this, I will do that, without complications. I mean, without hundreds of indexes and all that.
Sure. So, it's the same thing I said last week. I'm going to say it again. I'm not King Midas. I can't just touch the computer or the mouse and make sure that it turns into gold. But it's do not overcomplicate it. Basically, one of the things that I see with a lot of beginners, you guys, you tend to open all sorts of different indicators. You look at different economic projections, etc. Yeah, and as funny as it might sound, some people would sort of look up in the sky and look at the weather, and they'll be like, okay, the weather's depressing. Most of the investors, they would probably they would be selling today. Do not overcomplicate it. I'm not saying it's simple, but the more complicated you guys make it for yourself, the harder it is to actually focus on it. So something that we talk a lot about in our videos, and for those of you who actually follow us closely, you guys would you could probably remember. So one of the things that we do mention quite a lot is this strategy, the importance of a trading strategy. So it's something that you guys need to follow closely. So what that basically means, the trading strategy altogether, you guys need not to only work out how you're going to analyze the market, but also you need to work out what sort of instruments you guys work on, what sort of day or night, or what sort of time you guys trade. What would be the basics of you opening a certain transaction, and what also would be the basics if you close in a transaction, and what way you would actually trade, what you would actually do if the market doesn't go your way. Because again, so something important to understand. I do have most of my trades. Yeah, they're actually pretty good, except for this one on Bitcoin originally. But again, we could have probably held the position a little bit longer, because it just basically closed with a stop loss. But that's not big.
In summary, we are in plus.
Yeah, pretty good plus actually. But anyway, I mean one of the things to understand, not all of your trades are going to go the way you want them to. Okay, so that's exactly why you need to follow a trading strategy. It has a lot to do with trying to control yourself.
Yeah, that's very important. That's the next question I wanted to ask, because once things do not go as you expected, most traders begin to get nervous and to get under stress and all that. And as I see, you are always quiet and positive. How do you manage that, to keep your in a so stable emotional condition?
I look at something pretty every day. That's that's my inner harmony. No, but being serious about it. One of the things you guys need to understand, when you trade, it has a lot to do with your sort of psychology, with your psychological state. So if you let it to sort of determine how you behave, if the market manages to get to you, it's not going to have a positive effect either on your own your personal life, outside of trading, outside of the market. Neither would it actually have a good effect on your trading. Because I mean, let's put it this way. So say this basically what was it, the Bitcoin. So say I opened this order, and actually goes the other direction just now. Of course, I'm not going to be too happy with it. I would be a lot happier, if you just showed a massive candlestick just now and close it with pretty good profit. But at the same time, I'm not if it doesn't go my way, I'm not going to be really unhappy about it, because guys, again, you need to understand, it's not about just closing every single deal, with a massive profit. Every single trader on earth, no matter how experienced or inexperienced they are, they always have some negatives. They always have some losses. So it's that's the nature of the market. So, but again, it doesn't mean that to avoid the losses, you don't place a stop loss, or you don't place any pending orders to hedge yourself. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you don't need to worry about every single deal you guys make. So obviously, whenever I have a loss, I just analyze the market. I analyze, what happened to the market, and sometimes, it's not even my fault. Everything was absolutely fine with my analysis, but it just didn't work out because of some fundamentals. Some politician went out and said something, and especially we see it with Donald Trump a lot.
Yeah.
He's sort of famous, for saying something which just turns the market upside down a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's your trading strategy, something you need to work on, and your psychological state. That's it. That's a secret.
The importance is equal, I think.
Yeah. It's you can't say that if your strategy is good, forget about the psychology, and vice versa. If your psychological state is good, if it's on point, then your trading strategy might be a little bit off, but your psychological state would actually sort of help you to trade better. So it has to work together. Yeah.
Exactly. So new week has started and new trades, and what are the other instruments except the ones we have discussed already? Which other ones could you recommend or pay attention?
Guys, again, something I mentioned. LH Crypto does provide tons and tons of different instruments. I mean, that's not actually no, that's a whole list. We'll be adding a lot more later on, but we do have quite a lot right now. So in terms of the British pound, we already bought that. Bitcoin, same thing. We can actually have a look at Ethereum. So it's not where is it? Ethereum. Oh, there we go. So it's obviously not just Bitcoin. Ethereum. That's also good. Same thing here. So it's actually, as you guys can see, roughly, and I do mean roughly. So we do see something like, let me put it this way. So we do see something like this. I know it's very sort of rough, but that's basically the channel that we guys do see. And again, Ethereum actually had a pretty big movement recently. So again, that was a really good position to buy it. Pretty much any one of these points was a really good position to buy it. And again, that's exactly what happened. We saw the correction after a bit of a consolidation around this level, which, just to make it a little more visible for you guys, it was basically trying to break through this level. Since it didn't manage to, and the price consolidated around this level, gaining quite a bit of momentum. That's actually how we saw this raise in price. So Ethereum, that's again always good. Apple, by the way, we didn't actually open. As you guys can remember, for the last 2 weeks we were saying, you guys go along with it, go along. Yeah. So we didn't actually, I didn't really, let's put it this way, I didn't really bother with opening anything on Apple on this account.
But we didn't open ourselves.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't try to earn all the money of the market. It's still going to be there tomorrow. But yeah, basically, as you guys can see, there's quite a bit of a move in price of Apple, so that's something you could have gone for. Again, what else do we have? We have Tesla. For those of you guys who follow the news, at least watch the telly, the PTV, shall I say it a little more officially. So there are a few things happening with Elon Musk right now, so it's something that we're still going to wait for. But honestly, what I do think about the whole situation with Tesla would you see a bit of movement downwards with the shares of Tesla? However, I do believe what it's actually going to end up happening is, he'll probably pay a fine and, apologize to everyone on, say Twitter, on like Facebook, and, it should be fine. That's at least what I believe in. But again, Tesla is something that you guys can actually capitalize on quite a bit. So it's something you guys have to actually watch closely. So, follow the news, see what's actually happening with Elon Musk and Tesla situation. Again, one of the sort of popular ones, Facebook. For any one of you guys following the news, again, what basically happened, that was quite a big swing in price. Facebook's accounts, they were hacked, quite a lot of them. Hopefully, it does make you guys, turn off the video and, check your Facebook profile to see that, you haven't been, hacked and scammed in some way. But basically what happened, and it does happen to companies like Facebook every now and then, and that's a really good point for us to actually go along on this company. One of the reasons they're obviously going to fix it, they're obviously going to fix the whole situation, and it will start gaining strength again.
Yeah, this is the giant of the market, so
exactly. I mean, Facebook, everyone knows Facebook.
Small complications will not affect it strongly.
Yeah. So in terms of that, what we can do is obviously go long. Same thing. The market is closed for us just now, but that's a good position. To go along and if we buy it here, place in your take profit around this level or a little bit higher, that's absolutely fine. But generally speaking, currencies this week is actually going to be really hot on currencies. So we do have quite a bit of news on. What's it called? On the US dollar. So we do have news concerning the economical state of it. We do have non-farm especially this week. We do have quite a few announcements from the Bank of England, from the Eurozone. We do have the RBA statement tomorrow, and the either increase or I don't know if they will decrease it, but basically the news on the interest rates in Australia. So that's quite a bit of news in terms of the fiat. So this week is actually going to be really hot, and especially for you guys because by this time this is our third week of the trading marathon with LH Crypto. So you guys obviously have a little more experience. You guys obviously, hopefully, have a lot more confidence, and hopefully you guys, following us, you made quite a bit of profit. So this week, you guys are going to trade a little more. And, it's really good in terms of the fiat. It's really good in terms of the crypto. There's, all sorts of discussions and, trade channels, trend and trade channels, same thing. Gold, for any one of you who's trading, that's still going to be really good. It seems to be moving a little bit down, but actually, why not? Just for a bit of a difference, because for the last 2 weeks it seemed like we just kept selling and selling, buying and buying and buying.
You are opening a short position now.
Yeah. So basically, what that means, it is a bit of a hedge, not a hedgehog, a hedge position. Because we do have a long position, we do have a short position. However, what I am doing, I'm placing a short position with take profit at the same level as my buy limit. So by the time it's actually, if it does move down this way, by the time it actually closes this deal, it's actually gonna open. So we'll have a bit of a profit from our short position. And then our long position, second one, would actually open this level, and we'll go along. And yeah, that's basically the whole idea.
That's brilliant idea, I think.
No, yeah, we'll see. We'll see next week. I'm not going to be too upset, if it actually breaks through the level, and I'm going to have two long positions, and they're going to go negative, because in the end it's gold. Gold's going to go up.
We'll anyway. See. Anyway, I think our time is almost over, so So we are happy to see you, and stay tuned, and see you in 1 week, and wish you profitable trades.
Yeah. Enjoy it, guys. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye.